I did this in the other video too, what the heck. Finding Cinderella. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Allie. If you're new here, hello. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. It is reading wrap-up time, and I didn't upload yesterday because it was April Fool's Day. Ha! It was funnier in my head. It's honestly not that funny. Doing it? I don't know, I tried to prank you. The real joke is I was lazy and didn't do a reading wrap-up for February because I was also lazy in February and hardly read. So this is a wrap-up for February and March. February and March. That's the months that we're in. This is a dual reading wrap-up for everything that I read in February and everything I read in March. So yeah, we will jump right into it. These past 2 months, I have read 13 books, which is not that much, but yeah, let's talk about that. So the first book that I read was Identity by Alexa Mansouranis. I apologize if I butchered your last name, which I probably did, but I read Identity. I gave this 3 stars. This was recommended to me on TikTok as the whole, like, you're famous and I don't know it thing, and it was that, but it almost just felt too young for me. It was almost a little too much high school teen drama for me. Liked it, but I didn't love it. I wanted more from it. The main character kind of annoyed me from time to time. Oh, hi. You are rolling across the switch. What do you do? Can you see him? What are you doing? Dude. But yeah, the main character kind of annoyed me sometimes. I recommend it if you like kind of the whole famous trope thing where, like, you fall in love with somebody who's famous, you don't know they're famous, that thing. Very YA. So, like, I liked it, but I wanted more than what it was giving. So yeah, 3 stars to Identity. Then I read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and I actually 2-starred this. I finished it, but I kind of wish I didn't. The story, it's LGBTQ plus romance. I'm always a fan of them. It was written in 3rd person, and I've almost gotten to the point where I'm not the biggest fan of 3rd person writing. I like a 1st person POV, I like a dual POV. Not always a 3rd person fan. Sometimes the way it's written, I don't like, and that's how this was. It was just written in 3rd person in a way that I couldn't get into it. I felt like I was forcing myself to read it. Is it a good LGBTQ book? Yes, but it's written in 3rd person, and that's what made me not like it. So that kind of put me in a little bit of slump, so I reread a book that I love, which is It Happened One Summer, and I 5-starred it yet again. I've talked about this book a million times, so I don't really think I need to explain it, but yeah, that was a reread. Then on my Kindle, I read Final Offer, which is the 3rd book in the Dreamland's Billionaire series. Very popular. Really liked it. I 5-starred it. It was probably my favorite. This one and the second one are my favorites. The first one's not that great. This one is a second chance romance, like a friends to lovers romance. The first one is a little bit of enemies to lovers and the whole talking to someone online and then not realizing the same person in real life. The second one is Marriage of Convenience, Grumpy Sunshine. And then this one is definitely friends to lovers, second chance romance. Brother is dealing with alcoholism or drug addiction, one of the two, I can't remember. I read it in February. The whole overarching theme of this series is to get their inheritance from their grandfather's company. They have to do all these things that their grandfather says or else they don't get their inheritance. So he has to go make things right with this childhood friend that he knows and figure out what they're gonna do with this house that she's living in but he owns, yada yada yada. It was really good. I loved the banter. I loved the child character. And yeah, I thought it was a really good way to kind of tie the series up. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Especially if you haven't read any of the series, it's really good. So being in a good mood and finally buying it in physical copy, I reread Icebreaker. This is legitimately one of my favorite books on the planet now, so I 5-starred it yet again. I think this is like the 3rd time I've reread it, but I finally got it in paperback, so I had to reread it as soon as I got my grubby little hands on it. So Icebreaker. And then I think the only fantasy I read this month was The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. So this is a continuation of the Cruel Prince series, but following a different character. This follows Oak, who is the youngest sibling of one of the characters in the main series. The main series follows Carden and Jude. This is Jude's youngest brother, and he is now Prince, and you're following his story and his love story. I 4-starred this. It was good, and I really liked it. I had a harder time getting into it and like really getting into the groove and the pacing and the storyline as I did the original Cruel Prince series. It lives up. I would continue reading these characters 100%. It just took me a little bit harder to get into, but 4 stars, and I definitely recommend it. So then next, I started what is probably one of my favorite series now. I read Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. It's the first book in the Boys of Tommen series. I've read the first 2 books. I believe there's 4 books out now. If you like Addicted Calloway, I really think that you would like this series. It's just more high school set, but unlike Identity, where I felt like it was too high school and cliche and annoying, that's not what this is. This has a lot of the aspects of Addicted of dealing with like traumas and things, and it's sports romance centered instead of like My Parents Are Millionaires, so that's why people know me. The Addicted kind of like friend group where you're following all these big groups of friends as they experience all this stuff together, and trauma and sports and romance and age gap romance and brother's best friend and all of that. It's so good. The first 2 books follow the main characters Johnny and Shannon. Shannon is going through some traumas at home. She gets moved to a new school where she meets Johnny. They have an age gap romance situation going on, but I love them. I annotated the crap out of this book. I have not annotated a book in a hot minute, but I annotated this one. Like, this book made me like giddy and like had me kicking my feet and was so good. This book is also ginormous. This is like a 600-page book, and I read it in a day. 600-page book with like fairly small print, and I read it so fast. I immediately bought the second one when I finished it. I love it. It is trigger warnings for like abuse, so if that's not something that you're okay with reading, I totally get that. It's incredible and I loved it. The second 2 books follow a main character's brother and his relationship. Don't know if they're going to make a book about them, but I want them to make a book about the 2 best friends that are falling in love during this. I would kill for that. I was so obsessed with their relationship in these 2 books. I was screaming every time they interacted. But yeah, I read the first book. I never took my bookmark out, but I also, this was my last read of the month. I'm messing up my order now, but I then read the second book and loved it just as much. I 5-starred both of them. I'm very excited to read the next 2 books and continue on with it. But again, if you like a good Calloway companion novel dealing with trauma, all that jazz, read these. I want to know simply what they eat for breakfast every morning. I would read their grocery list. They're incredible, and I feel like they're not very popular, so like they deserve more hype, and I need to take my bookmark out of this. So in between those, and I did my Reading Colleen Hoover for a week. I will tag that video. So within that week, I read 4 Colleen Hoover books that put me in a reading slump by the end of the month. But I read Losing Hope, which I 3-starred, Finding Cinderella, what? I did this in the other video too, what the heck? Finding Cinderella, which I 3-starred. All Your Perfects, I 4, and maybe someday I 3-starred. Go watch my other video if you want my initial raw reactions to all of these. I wanted to die by the end of that video. I did not read anything for like after I did this. The whole like last week of March, I read nothing else. So that happened, but yeah, I cleared off a solid amount of my leftover Colleen Hoover books that I never read. It was helpful. Cleared off a lot of TBH space, cleared off a lot of TBR space, but also put me in a very big slump, to which I then read The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. I 4-starred this book. Big trigger warnings for grape. I don't know if YouTube will get mad at me if I say the actual word, but grape and SA. That's what this book is based on. Our main character experiences that, and it's kind of showing her dealing with that trauma in not necessarily healthy ways related to this book, because I've been through these situations personally. But I also think it's just a really good book for people to read in general. Obviously, if you're not okay with reading that subject, don't. I thought it was really relatable, and I feel like it did a really good job of not trying to like romanticize the situation. I thought it did a good job. I feel like most people that experience these things don't immediately heal and immediately get justice for what they need and want. And I think this book did a really good job of showing that healing is not linear and things happen and you have to learn to deal with it, and people's opinions and thoughts and all of that jazz. But yeah, 4-starred it. I don't know what wasn't 5-star. There's still things that like could have been better. It's a fairly short book. It's big font. It's split up into 4 sections. It's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior of high school. So again, I feel like the high school aspect sometimes got a little bit annoying, but I definitely recommend it and suggest that you check it out if you haven't. These are all the books that I've read in the past 2 months. I'm definitely in a little bit of a slump right now, but I'm working on getting out of it. I'm definitely behind on my reading goal, but I think I can catch up. So pray for me. But yeah, if you guys want to follow me anywhere on social media, they are down below as always, as well as on my end card screen down below is also my Amazon wishlist in my PangoBooks. My Amazon, you can send me any books that I have picked out there already. Send me any of your favorite books. And PangoBooks is a place where you can buy mine or other people's used books. So if there's anything on here specifically that you want to read, you can go find it on Pango for a cheaper price. I'll see you guys next week. I love and appreciate you so much. I'm sorry for my really bad April Fool's joke. It was just dumb. I thought it was funny, but now looking back at it, I don't think it is. I love and appreciate you so much. Please stay safe, and I will see you somewhere else on the internet.